Welcome to the Maximize Business Value podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Mastery Partners, where our mission is to equip business owners to maximize business value so they can transition their business on their terms. Our mission was born from the lessons we've learned from over 100 business transactions, which fuels our desire to share our experiences and wisdom so you can succeed. Now here's your host, CEO Mastery Partners, Tom Bronson.
Heidi-ho, everyone. It's Tom Bronson, and welcome to the Maximize Business Value podcast, where we give practical advice to business owners on how to build long-term sustainable value in your business and then exit your business on your terms, as opposed to it happening by default. Because, as we already know, every business on the planet will eventually transition. Don't you want to do it the way you want to do it instead of having it thrust upon you? This episode is part of our series from the Maximize Business Value Playbook, 65 specific actions to dramatically increase the value of your business. You can find that playbook on Amazon.com. Today, we're on chapter 25, Secure Agreements with Key People. Now, formalizing the right agreements with employees is critical to protect your business. Among these are confidentiality agreements, non-solicitation, and non-competition, which are all very different agreements. Confidentiality agreements protect your intellectual property from being taken elsewhere after an employee leaves the business. A well-written confidentiality agreement should specify that the work product is owned by the company, not the employee. This type of agreement prevents a former employee from taking the valuable intellectual property they learned or developed while working for your company and running down the street to compete against you in another business. Now, non-solicitation agreements prevent former employees from taking customers and other employees from the business. Look, anyone in business long enough will eventually lose good people, whether to a competitor or another company. Regardless of the company where they work, if they take customers or other employees with them, it's called tortious interference, and that's illegal if they take a set or over a number of them. I've seen it happen hundreds of times. You can't do that, especially if you have a non-solicitation in place. Now, a business loses the best salesperson, and a few weeks later, that person invites the rest of the sales team out for beers and tells them how wonderful their new gig is. Then the salesperson asks the others to join them at the new company. Next thing you know, the business loses the rest of their top salespeople, all who mysteriously appear in the same company. Now, by having a non-solicitation agreement in place, one that survives post-employment, this behavior is preventable. And it's always a good idea to remind employees of their obligations as they part or as a key part of your exit interview when someone leaves. Non-competition agreements prevent former employees from going to a competitive business or from starting a business to compete against their former employee. Now, while it's a great idea to get all three of these, perhaps one agreement with every single employee, this may be a little trickier in some states. Some states require that non-competes tied to some monetary compensation. Others don't allow them at all. Most states do allow some form of confidentiality and non-solicitation agreements. So on this matter, make sure to get advice from a solid business or employment law attorney. Another solid practice is to have the agreement signed annually to remind employees of their obligations. Think of it as the same way as renewing your insurance policy. My 3 maximize business value recommended actions this week. 1, work with a competent business attorney to develop and execute solid agreements with your employees, especially your key people. 2, review, update, and renew agreements on an annual basis. And number 3, check out the article on retaining key employees on masterypartners.com. Up next week, formalizing documentation. Could be fun. This is the Maximize Business Value podcast, where we give practical advice to business owners on how to build long-term sustainable value in your business so you can transition it on your own terms. If this is the first MBV podcast you've listened to, we're at 185 and counting. 185 episodes crammed with great information just waiting to be downloaded wherever you found this podcast. Go download some of them today. Until next time, I'm Tom Bronson, reminding you to pick one thing, just one thing, to dramatically improve the value of your business and do it today while you maximize business value.
Thank you for tuning into the Maximize Business Value podcast with Tom Bronson. This podcast is brought to you by Mastery Partners, where our mission is to equip business owners to maximize business value so they can transition on their terms. Learn more on how to build long-term sustainable business value and get free value-building tools by visiting our website, www.masterypartners.com. That's master with a Y, masterypartners.com. Check it out.
That was perfect. I wouldn't make any changes on that.